You know the fastest drivers on Earth? Well, they've found a loophole that's even quicker than their cars. And this isn't a story about speed on the track. Nope. This is all about a financial shortcut, one that saves them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay, get this. 16 out of the 20 drivers in Formula One, the absolute elite of global motorsport, they all live in the exact same place. And that is absolutely not a coincidence. It's a very, very deliberate strategy. And look, we're not just talking about the same country or even the same city. No. They are all packed into this tiny little principality, a place that's actually smaller than Central Park in New York. So you have to ask, right? What's the big secret hiding in these 2 square kilometers?
So let's get into it. And let me be clear, this has absolutely nothing to do with the lifestyle or the weather or the culture. This is a cold, hard, calculated move to get a financial pole position. For these guys choosing where to live, well, that's the first and maybe the most important race they'll ever win.
So what is this winning strategy? What's the big deal? Well, it all comes down to something incredibly simple, but also unbelievably powerful. Think of it like this. This one thing is the engine that drives this whole entire phenomenon.
Okay, to really get a handle on the scale here, just look at that number, $70 million. That's what Max Verstappen is reportedly earning for 2024 alone. I mean, that's a staggering amount of money from his salary, bonuses, you name it. And in pretty much any other country on the planet, that kind of income comes with a crippling tax bill.
Just look at this comparison. It's pretty stark, right? If Max lived back home in the Netherlands, the government would take about 52% of that. That's around $36 million, poof, gone. But by living in Monaco, his personal income tax rate is 0. A big fat 0. He gets to keep every single cent of that $70 million.
So you're probably thinking, all right, how do I get in on this deal? Well, it's not quite as simple as just signing a lease on an apartment. See, Monaco has turned residency into a super exclusive product. And believe me, you're going to need a lot more than a fast car to even think about affording it.
Okay, so here's the price of admission. Step 1, you have to prove you have €500,000. That's about 500 grand just sitting, collecting dust in a Monaco bank. And that's just to get your foot in the door. Then you have to either rent or buy property in one of the most expensive real estate markets on the entire planet. And only after all of that can you even apply for residency. And that involves interviews to make sure you have, good character.
But if you manage to jump through all those hoops, this is the prize. Check it out. 0% income tax, 0% capital gains tax, 0% wealth tax. Your entire financial life basically becomes a fortress. And the tax man, he just can't get in. Let's put this into a long-term perspective, because this is where it gets crazy. Take a driver like Charles Leclerc, who's actually from Monaco. Just by staying home, he saves an estimated $15 million in taxes every single year. Think about that. Over a 10-year career, that's $150 million. Just unbelievable.
And this didn't happen by accident. Oh no, this was basically a 150-year business plan. It all started way back in 1869 when Prince Charles III got rid of direct taxes, specifically to lure in wealthy European aristocrats. Fast forward to the 1970s, tennis stars like Bjorn Borg caught on, and by the 80s, Monaco was pretty much the unofficial home base for Formula One.
So really, you got to think of it like a global game of chess. You've got countries like the UK, France, Italy. They all have these super complex tax rules. But for an athlete who's earning money from all over the world, Monaco's simple zero-tax setup, it's checkmate. It's the winning move. They aren't just choosing a home. They're choosing a jurisdiction. They're picking the one square on the board that guarantees they win.
Okay, but what's it actually like to live inside this gilded cage? The public image of Monaco, the one you see on TV, is all about ultimate glamour and success, right? Well, the reality for a lot of people living there is something else entirely.
I mean, Formula One itself pushes this narrative so hard. They sell the Monaco Grand Prix as the absolute pinnacle, the ultimate dream. The message couldn't be clearer. If you've really made it, this is where you live. Among the super yachts and the casinos, it's what success looks like.
But then you hear from people who actually live there, and a totally different picture starts to emerge. This quote from an anonymous resident just nails it. It's clean to the point of being unsettling. A theme park designed by an accountant. Wow. It's a place built for financial optimization, not really for, living.
And you hear this from the drivers too. Usually off the record, of course. They admit life there can be surprisingly boring, even isolating. For many of them, it's really just a legal fiction, a mailing address they use for tax purposes. It's quiet, it's transactional, and it's a world away from that vibrant, exciting community you see on TV for one weekend a year.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit, because this is so much bigger than just a few dozen F1 drivers. Their situation, really, is just the most visible symptom of a massive global system. A system that has staggering consequences for the rest of us.
Just look at this number. According to the OECD, places like Monaco, tax havens, cost governments around the world an estimated $600 billion. $600 billion! And that's not a one-time thing. That's in lost revenue every single year. I mean, just imagine what that money could do. It could fund countless hospitals, schools, roads, you name it.
So this really forces you to ask a pretty fundamental question. What even is a country in this context? Because for a place like Monaco, it's not really a nation-state built on a shared culture or history. It's more like a service. It's a luxury brand that you can buy into to legally opt out of the social contract. That basic agreement that says we all chip into the societies that help us succeed in the first place.
And here's the core of the problem. The whole system is built on this fundamental imbalance. Capital, money, it can zip across borders instantly, no problem, to find the absolute best deal. But labor, that's us, actual people, we can't. That kind of freedom of movement is a privilege that's pretty much reserved exclusively for the super, super wealthy.
And listen, Monaco is just one player in this game. It's part of a huge global network. You've got Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore, Dubai, Malta, the list goes on. All of these places are basically locked in what you could call a race to the bottom. They're all competing with each other to offer lower taxes and more secrecy, pulling all that mobile money away from the systems that are supposed to fund the rest of the world.
So yeah, the F1 drivers are the famous faces we see. They're the poster children for this. But honestly, they're just the tip of the iceberg. This system wasn't really built for them. It was designed for the really big players, the megacorporations, the giant hedge funds, the billionaires who are passing down fortunes without paying a dime in taxes. That's the real money moving around in the shadows.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most critical question of all. Look, the drivers are just rational actors here. They're playing the game by the rules they've been given. So blaming them, that's the easy way out. The much harder, more important question is this. Why does a global system that allows this to happen even exist in the first place? And maybe more to the point, why do we let it?